I know is that there is going to be a movie review in this room for the new Christopher Nolan movie Tenet by a guy called Movie Worm. Just hasn't happened yet. What is up everyone, Movie Worm back again with another review, and this is going to be for the movie Tenet, and this is directed by Christopher Nolan, starring John David Washington, Robert Pattinson, Elizabeth Debicki and Kenneth Branagh. Now this tells the story of a secret agent who goes through a mind-bending, time-travelling journey to prevent World War III. Now, I've been waiting for this cinema trip for quite a while now because of COVID, etc. And yes, I have been to cinema for 3 times before this, since they reopened, but this was the big one. This was the blockbuster that we have been starved of for so long, and through some minor miracle, Tenet is now at cinemas, and it didn't disappoint. This was an experience. I'm just going to go right off the bat here and say, this is probably the hardest movie I have ever had to process in my life. I give this movie my full attention. I took in every word, every scene, and yet about halfway through, I just got totally lost in this film. So think of this as a first thought review rather than a full review, because, you know, I think that's a little unfair, but I'm still going to grade this movie at the end. But I do need to rewatch this film many times before I can give you my full score on this movie. Something I will say though, even though this movie really did confuse me at times, it didn't take away any enjoyment whatsoever. I was always having fun with this film, and I went as a group of 4, and after the movie we all said the same thing. We all enjoyed the film, even though we tried to make sense of it, but this movie does not take away any fun factor whatsoever. This is still a fascinating watch. Now, while I briefly put the plot synopsis at the start of this review, it's so much more than that. There's so many elements to this story to make it work, and just as I was trying to, think about what they just said and try and take that in, something else is thrown at you. It's very, very fast moving, and while this might not be for everyone, I actually enjoyed it. I like my brain working through this movie, trying to figure it out. But they'll know that going in. I just feel like this is a movie that you have to see for yourself. Let's just get on to the cast here. John David Washington was absolutely fantastic in this movie. I haven't seen him in much, but he was great as the protagonist. And I say protagonist because that's what he's billed as. And he had so much charisma in this movie. He was quite funny at times, but to help along with all that, he was just a total badass that I latched onto and could get fully behind for this film. One of the first things one of my friends asked me after watching this movie was, how was Robert Pattinson in the film? And you know what? He was absolutely fantastic. As much as I wished he was in this movie a little bit more, he was a solid character. And Nolan, usually gets his cast spot on really, doesn't he? But you can tell why this guy is going to be starring in some upcoming movies soon, because he has it all. He really does. He was fantastic in this. We also have Elizabeth Debicki in here. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I apologise if I'm not, but she was great in this film. She brought so much to the movie, I thought. Such a good character. And we also have Aaron Taylor-Johnson, who comes in towards the end of the film. He was another big plus for this movie. And Kenneth Branagh as the main villain. Done a fine job, I thought. I mean, he was a little bit animated too much for this type of film, but he's still done a pretty solid job, I thought. However, the biggest star of this movie, by far, is Christopher Nolan. Now, I can't quite recall seeing filmmaking on this type of level. Inception blew my mind, but I feel like Nolan took an extra step here. There were some scenes in this movie that were just beyond epic, and honestly, my jaw was just on the floor at times. Now, without spoiling anything here, there was a scene in this movie that was just absolutely fascinating to watch. And about an hour after this scene, you see it again from a different perspective. And I just feel like I have to mention it. I could not do this review without mentioning it, because honestly, it was one of the greatest things I'd ever seen in a movie. Ever. I just thought, wow, that is just something else. The fact that Nolan actually wrote this movie though, and thought of all this in his head, and seen the impossible in his mind, and put it to film, is just baffling to me. I don't think it's something I could ever really understand. You know, some might say he's just trying to outdo himself with each movie, but on the other hand, I see a filmmaker who is doing something that no one else would really dare to do. I mean, he is just one of the best filmmakers of our generation. One of the first things I noticed about this movie was the actual sound. I thought my eardrums were going to explode at one point. And Christopher Nolan has just overseen a fantastic score by Ludwig Göransson. It adds so much to the experience. He drills the music into your ears for full effect. And I just love all that. You know, it just adds so much more to the movie for me. As far as negatives go, I don't really have too many complaints with this movie. Yes, it's a little bit hard to understand and it's a little bit complicated, but I think this movie invites you in for a second, third, fourth watch even, and I'm going to accept that invitation. I can't wait to watch this film again. And I think Christopher Nolan has really found a perfect balance there of the fact that even if you find this movie complicated, you can still have a great time with it. And that's what I did. Even halfway through, I just sort of sat back and tried to just have a good time with it, and I did. I really did enjoy this movie. And, you know, I think this should just be even better on a second rewatch. I'm just going to go ahead and rate this movie now. I'm going to give Tenet an 8.5 out of 10. Now, like I said at the start of the video, this is a first reactions more than a full review. Maybe I'll do a cinema revisited episode on this, or a full spoiler review if I go and see it again soon, and maybe it'll get a higher score than that. I mean, I can see this score going up on rewatch, but for now I'm just going to stick with an 8.5. It's a movie with potential to me, if that makes any sense whatsoever. Now, at the end of these reviews, I always like to leave a little fun fact. Now, I was just thinking today, do the actors in this movie and Inception and stuff actually get the full story that they're starring in? And I actually found out today that Robert Pattinson was only allowed to read this script once in the Warner Brothers studio, and he weren't allowed to leave the room. So I don't even think he knew what the hell he was starring in. And Michael Caine actually came out and said he was only allowed to read part of the script and he had no idea what this film was about. So there you go. Okay guys, hope you all enjoyed this review. If you want to comment about the movie Tenet or this review, please feel free. I will reply to every single one of you, I promise. If you want to subscribe, it's up to yourself. Got a lot more videos coming, lots more reviews, so it is up to yourself. Take it all easy guys, and I'll see you all in the next video.